Howdy doody everybody, I'm David Shapcott, and this is the story about how I came to adopt a Vietnamese daughter. Now, I had promised myself after the 1975 miraculous winning of the war by the North Vietnamese that one day I was going to go over there, meet the people who had achieved this miraculous happening and make friends with them and learn their language. And in 2001 my wife said, look, I'm sick of listening to this, how you're going to do this, learn the language and go, or shut up. So, well, I decided to go ahead and do this. So I headed off to Hanoi, and I arrived there with much excitement because this is what I'd always wanted to do, and also much trepidation because the Western powers, when they'd been in Vietnam, had done some terrible things. Now, this book here, you can get it on ebook, Kill Anything That Moves, is about American war crimes in Vietnam. And the Pentagon, after the My Lai massacre was revealed in the press, had been completely caught flat-footed. They didn't know anything about it. So they set up an inquiry team to look into all rumours of war crimes and to document them. They weren't going to prosecute anybody, they just wanted to make sure that if it ever came out in the press again, they would know what had been going on. So pretty grim reading, to say the least. And I also knew a couple of New Zealand veterans who had raped prepubescent girls over in Vietnam. And one of them, when he came back, continued on with his activities and was eventually caught for raping New Zealand girls, and he received 4.5 years jail for his crime. So as I headed out into the streets, I was thinking, now, these people probably know all about these terrible things that were done here by the Westerners. What are they going to think when they see me? So as I headed on out into the streets, I was pretty soon surrounded by a bunch of street kids who were always wanting to sell me things. And here is a picture of a couple of those street kids. That girl there is Hom, who I got to know very well. And Hom, when I asked her about the reaction of the Vietnamese to Westerners, she said, well, we need the West in order to develop our economy, so we can't feel bitter about the past. We have to put it behind us and get on with the reality of living in today. So well, that's pretty remarkable, because if these things had been done in New Zealand by another power, we'd hate them forever, which is not a good way to carry on. So I had to admire that. So Hom said to me, you don't want to buy t-shirts? Okay, where are you going now? I said, well, I'm going off to the internet cafe to write to my wife to tell her I'm here. I show you where it is. You never find it, you get lost. So off we went. I'm typing a mail to my wife, and Hom's leaning over my shoulder writing something out. What are you doing? I write down your wife's email address. Why? Because I know what you Westerners are like. You come over here without your wives, and then you try to couple with us girls. You try to couple with me, I run right to your wife and tell her you're a very bad man. And I thought, good on you, kid. You're setting the limits of what's going on here right from the word go. I'm sure you've had some pretty bad experience of Westerners in the past, and you're looking after yourself, and you're tough, and this is a no-nonsense situation. Good on you. So I had to admire that. Then when I finished writing, she said, right, where you go now? I said, well, I want to go to Hoa Kien Lake, the centre of Hanoi City, and into the old quarter. She said, you never find them, you get lost, I show you where they are. So off we went. So I got to the Hoa Kien Lake. She said, right, what this lake called in English? I said, well, the Lake of the Recovered Sword. She said, why it called that? I said, I don't know. So she explained to me the legend of the recovered sword. That's very good. So this is the Hoa Kien Lake here. Very beautiful lake in the centre of Hanoi. And then we headed up into the old quarter. So here we are in the old quarter. Just remarkable. People all over the streets. It was just so unlike New Zealand. I loved it. And this was another sight that I really loved. A woman out in the street having her toenails clipped by a friend. You know, in New Zealand we do all those things inside because we've got big houses, but there with the small houses, cramped conditions, a lot of things that we would do in the street, in the house, they do in the streets. So this was great. So I said to him, you know, you're pretty good. You've learned English. Where did you learn English? Was that at school? No. I had to leave school when I was 12. How come? Well, the government, they pay for the children to go to school for the first 2 children in the family. But after that, any more children, then the parents have to pay. They couldn't afford for me to go to school beyond 12. So I was number 3 in the family, so that was the end of me. Well, how did you learn English then? Well, talking to foreigners like you. Well, what books did you have to help you? Books? I can't afford to buy books. I don't have that much money. So you learned it just by speaking? Of course. And I also get them to write down. So I say to them, what this called in English? And they write it down for me. And then I practice. That's pretty good. Well, how do you know all about all these things about Vietnam? You didn't learn it at school, presumably, so how did you learn? Because I go to the museums, and at the museums I ask the people running the museums, what this all about? You tell me what this all about. And they tell me. I said, well look, I've got a whole list of museums I want to go to while I'm here. Maybe you could be my guide and show me around. Sure, but it costs you money. You're not getting this for free. Well, fair enough. So we negotiated the price, and off we went the next day. So Mom arrived, and here she is. She arrived with 2 bicycles she had hired for the day, and here we are on the bridge across the Red River, the bridge that the Americans bombed repeatedly during the American War. And then we drove into the township, and this is Hom buying some of these red fruit here called dragon fruit. I've never heard of them before. So she brought those and cut them up for me to eat. They were beautiful, I love them. I eat them all the time now, marvellous. Then, where do you want to go now? Oh, I want to go to the History Museum. So here is the History Museum, beautiful old French building, lovely. Inside we went. Hom said, you give me all your money, because you're too slow, you're hopeless with money. I'll pay for everything and give you the money back at the end of the day. So I gave her a certain amount of money, and I added it all up in my head, and then every time she paid for anything, I added it all up to work out what was supposed to be left at the end of the day, and bang on, it was absolutely correct. And I had to admire that, because here she's a poor kid, she lives in the streets, or works in the streets. Very easy for her to sort of have no ethics at all, and to try and rip people off who were wealthier than she was, but she wasn't doing that, so I admired that. So we got into the museum, and she said, right, this big painting here, it showed a big sea battle. What the sea battle? I say, oh, I know that. That's when the Vietnamese won their independence from China. What year? I don't know. And what was the special strategy the Vietnamese used? I don't know. So she explained it all to me. And after we'd been to the History Museum, had a good look around, I wanted to go to the Temple of Literature, which was the first university ever built in Vietnam. Here we are, it was built in 1070. So we went there, and again I had the same experience of questions and answers which were delivered to me. And after that I wanted to go to see Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum. Here it is here. And more questions and answers about Ho Chi Minh, so I learned more. And we went out to numerous museums and sites like this over the next week or so. And here we are, we went off to restaurants, of course, regularly. And here we are at a nice restaurant. And I said to Hom, look, I've got to say I'm impressed with your knowledge about all of Vietnam culture and history. and yet all you're doing is just working in the street selling t-shirts. This is what you want to do with your life? No, of course not. Well, what do you want to do? I want to become the school teacher. Well, how are you going to become a school teacher? Well, I'm going to find the rich foreigner, and the rich foreigner is going to pay for me to go back to school and do the training to become the school teacher. Okay. I said, look, I'd like you to come with me tomorrow to the university, because I know of a couple of university students who I've been organised to meet, because I knew a university student in Auckland, New Zealand, and he put me onto his friends. So I want you to come with me and meet them. Okay? So off we went. So the next day we went to the University of Hanoi, and we met these two guys here. And I said to them, look, can you just talk to this girl? She wants to be a school teacher, but I don't know whether she's simply street smart or whether she really has got the ability to do an academic course. So they had a long talk with her. It was very rapid. I couldn't follow one word in Vietnamese at all. It was just too fast for me. At the end of it, they turned to me and said, where'd you find her? I said, in the street selling t-shirts. I said, you're very lucky. Most of those kids are opportunists and street smart, but that's it. They got no other ability at all. But she has got the ability to do an academic course. So I thought, well, that's great. So I wrote to my wife and said, how would she feel about me funding Hom to do this course? And she said, yeah, that's fine, but you're obliged to provide a certain amount of money for household expenses. You've got to keep that up, and if you have money over, you can pay for Hom to do the course. Okay, so I had it all worked out. So I said to Hom, right, my wife has agreed for me to fund you. Now, how am I going to get the money to you? She said, I already have the bank account. So, what have you got a bank account for? She said, because when I find the rich foreigner, he needs the bank account to send the money to, so I've already set that up. I said, oh, what else does a rich foreigner need? Oh, the rich foreigner also likes you to write to them every day, every week. So I've got an email address too, so I'm going to start writing to you every week, so keep in contact with you. So, oh, that's great. So I said, now look, Hom, while we're at the university, I was really shocked. Did you see those the student hostels there? These very small rooms with 8 bunks in for the students. Terrible. She said, well, where I live, it's a concrete box, and the landlady, she takes 80 cents off you a night if you've got 80 cents, otherwise you sleep in the street, and she gives you a rubber mat and you sleep on the floor, 10 girls per room. So, holy crap. Now, I'm not that I'm stupid, just that I hadn't thought. I mean, this is how I was living. This is the hotel room that I was living in, you know. And I just kind of assumed that everybody was living like that. But so I was a bit ashamed of myself that I'd never really thought it through. So then Hom took me to the street where she lives, and this is the street where she lives, within this concrete box. So it was rather different from the place where I was living, that's for sure. So then I said to Hom, look, I really want to go and see the Perfume Pagoda while I'm still in Hanoi. It's about 60 kilometres outside of Hanoi. So Hom said, I'll find some motorbike people to take us there. So she found a couple of guys who own motorbikes who, for a price, agreed to take us to the Perfume Pagoda. So Hom invited her cousin Swan to come along. So there we are in a boat, Hom and Swan, and the lady rowing the boat to take us to the Perfume Pagoda. And we get to this place, and then we have to walk about 1,000 steps, and that's a sight from the top of the pagoda. You know, just a beautiful, beautiful sight, an amazing day. When we got back to the boys with the bikes, they'd been drinking alcohol all day, and I thought, this doesn't look good. So we took off on the bikes, and after a while I realised Hom and Swan and her motorbike guy went up behind us, so we turned around and went back, and we eventually found them, and then we all went off into Hanoi. When we got to Hanoi, Hom said, "Oh, the reason that we weren't behind you the whole time was that the guy driving our bike turned down a side street, then tried to rape Swan." I said, "What? How did you get away from that?" She said, I said to him, "You want to lie with a woman? Fine. You get on your motorbike, you drive quickly back to Hanoi, then you lie with your wife. Otherwise, you can't lie with anyone. You're not lying with Swan." So, because of her determined and stroppy and aggressive sort of style, the guy eventually acquiesced and drove back. So I went back to this coot and I said, "You rotten rat, you tried to rape Swan, how dare you?" And not only was he not apologetic, and not only was he not ashamed of what he had done, but he was trying to tell me I owed him more money because we'd taken so long at the Perfume Pagoda. I was furious. We had a big stand-up ranting rage at each other, and a big crowd of guys all gathered around us. In the end I thought I'd just let it go. So I went back, I just let it go, walked away, said to Swan and Hom, "Look, I'm really sorry this has happened. This is a terrible thing." Hom said, "No, the bad thing could have happened, but it didn't. So we just forget about it, put it behind us, we just move on." I thought, this kid's tough. She is going to be able to do a course, because another 6 years of education, you know, there's going to be bad things happen in that time, and she's just got to keep herself going. She's got it. So my wife came over to Hanoi with me, and she met Hom. So here is my wife with Hom. Now, I might be a bit easygoing, but my wife is like Hom. She's tough and she's determined, and she said to Hom, "Right, you want to have the good education?" Oh no, sorry, a good education. I thought like Hom all the time. "You want to have a good education? A good education is more than just passing exams. You've also got to have a cultural education. So you have to come with us to the opera house and to the jazz club regularly to see good music, good opera being performed." Hom was not keen, but as I say, my wife is quite different. She is more determined and more stroppy than Hom, and Hom knew she had met a match with Helen, so Hom acquiesced and came along. So Hom eventually got through high school and got through Teachers Training College and became a school teacher, and I'll tell you more about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.